Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at something truly extraordinary. We're going to explore a piece of history that is so much more than just wood and craftsmanship. We're looking at an incredible artifact built entirely on sheer hope. I mean, just imagine for a second, pouring your heart, your wealth, and your absolute best artisans into a project for a destination you can't even reach. It sounds crazy, right? But over 850 years ago, a righteous ruler dared to do exactly that. We are going to unpack the story of the Minbar of Nur ad-Din and discover how a physical object became the ultimate symbol of a vision beyond time.
So let's just dive right into the central paradox here. Why build a masterpiece for an occupied city? It's an absolutely fascinating question. At the time this project was commissioned, the intended home for this masterpiece was firmly under occupation. It was not under Muslim rule. So why dedicate immense resources, all this time, and masterful artistry to a place you literally do not control? What drives a leader to initiate a monumental task when the physical reality of the world is telling them it's absolutely impossible? To really understand the answer, we have to look at the man who ordered it, Nur ad-Din Zangi.
Section 1. A Vision Before Victory. The incredible foresight of Nur ad-Din Zangi.
Section 2. Crafted without a nail. Dedication carved in wood.
Okay, so more than 850 years ago, Nur ad-Din made this profoundly optimistic order. He commanded that a beautiful minbar, which is a pulpit used for sermons, be built explicitly for Masjid Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem. This was rooted in his absolute, unshakable conviction that the city would eventually be liberated. And, when you're building for a seemingly impossible dream, you don't cut corners. The minbar was constructed from precious wood, and astonishingly, it was assembled without using a single nail. No way, right? Just imagine the mathematical precision required for that. Skilled craftsmen spent countless hours carving these intricate Islamic geometric patterns, designing interlocking pieces that held together perfectly through tension and just flawless joinery. So, why did he build it this way? He built it like this because a masterpiece meant for such a sacred destination demanded absolute perfection. It was basically an act of worship translated directly into physical form.
Section 3. The weight in storage. Faith against the odds.
Now, it's one thing to have a burst of inspiration and build something beautiful. It is an entirely different kind of faith to complete that masterpiece and then have nowhere to put it. The minbar was finished, its intricate, nailless joints perfectly locked into place, but the geopolitical reality of the time was incredibly harsh. On one side of the equation, you have a completed, priceless masterpiece, a total marvel of engineering and art, just kept safely in storage, sitting in the dark, waiting. On the other side, you have the bleak reality. Jerusalem remains under occupation. It's not under Muslim rule. Imagine being Nur ad-Din, knowing the most beautiful thing you have ever commissioned is just sitting in silence, waiting for a victory that the whole world is telling you is impossible. And then, we get to the tragic turn of history. Nur ad-Din passed away before seeing his dream fulfilled. He breathed his last breath while Jerusalem was still occupied, and while his magnificent minbar was still sitting there in storage. For a lot of people, this would be the end of the story, right? A failed ambition, an unfinished legacy. But the historical record makes it crystal clear. Nur ad-Din never lost hope in the divine promise. The crucial thing to remember about why he built it is this. He didn't build the minbar to guarantee he would be the one to place it there. He built it because he trusted the promise itself.
Section 4. Fulfilling the dream. A legacy realized by another. Because a true vision doesn't just die with the visionary. Since Nur ad-Din's intention was so deeply sincere, the dream simply waited for the right hands to carry it forward. Tracing this journey across the decades is wild. Over 850 years ago, Nur ad-Din orders the masterpiece. Time passes, and sadly, he passes away. But then, years later, history shifts. Victory is granted through another legendary leader, Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi. Salahuddin actually liberates Jerusalem. And what's the first thing he does? He remembers the vision of his predecessor. That very same minbar, the one crafted from precious wood, without a single nail, that sat waiting in the dark for all those years, was brought out of storage, carried straight into Masjid Al-Aqsa, and placed exactly where Nur ad-Din had always intended it to go.
Section 5. The Power of Intention. Planting seeds for future unseen.
So, boiling it all down, why did Nur ad-Din build it? He built it to plant a seed. He built it to prove that our actions today do not require immediate, visible results to be meaningful. Good intentions and sincere efforts can bear fruit long, long after we're gone. Nur ad-Din did the work, he prepared the physical reality, he trusted in a higher power, and he just left the final results to history. The source material anchors this entire historical event in a really beautiful, powerful quote from the Qur'an, chapter 9, verse 120. Indeed, Allah does not allow the reward of those who do good to be lost. And that right there summarizes the absolute core of this story. He worked with profound sincerity and love. He didn't get to see the reward in his own lifetime, but history ensured that his efforts stood as a physical beacon of fulfilled hope in Masjid Al-Aqsa.
Which brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with today. It's a question for all of us. What seeds are you planting for a future you may never see? If a leader 850 years ago could build a nailless masterpiece for a city he couldn't even enter, simply out of trust and sincere intention, what can we build in our own lives? Sincerity outlasts us all. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and until next time, keep building for the future.